All right, everyone. Good evening to you. Here it is 8:33. I'm just going to allow just a little bit more time for some folks to jump on here, and we're going to go ahead and cover the weather, what we have out there now, and some of the changes and additions we have seen put into effect here in terms of watches in our areas. Let me just give this a little bit more time. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. And what I'm going to do is see if I can flip this around. And well, so what we're going to do here is give me 1 second here. Okay, there we go. All right, so here we are. Let's go ahead and get started here with the coverage, and I got the comments open here, so I can see some of the questions here. I got Frank Cardenas on here, and Jamaica Williams, Hannah Paulman. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shut the comments off just for a second so I can see what I'm showing you here and describe what's happening. First of all, let me just point out that we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Frio and Zavala, Dimmitt, LaSalle, McMullen County. Does not include Bexar County. This is until 2 a.m. for the southern cluster. And as you just saw, we do have a northern cluster that actually has a warning right now in parts of the Hill Country, Edwards County, into some of Real County. And you see we have one lone storm in Medina County. It's been pretty noisy around Hondo, trying to sort of drift into the west side of Bexar County. So what I want to do, first of all, is highlight the storms that you see down here. They are not going to be paying Bexar County a visit or the Highway 90 corridor. Some of this rain here to the north is in response to them, patches of rain. But this is a menacing line of storms coming through Carrizo Springs to Asherton near Crystal City. Earlier was over Eagle Pass, but this is a zone of 60-plus mile-an-hour wind that we have in our area. And that is the severe thunderstorm warning that you see that is active. So some real strong winds, damaging winds, power outage risk here right now in our southwestern tier of our area with this line of storms. We'll bounce up here to Medina County to Bexar. And you see we have this one storm that developed over Hondo, and now it's sort of drifting east-southeast. It's had a history of some really small hail and occasionally gusts 40 miles an hour, or maybe even a little bit stronger on this storm. And it's scraping Castroville. Notice there's now another really little storm that's forming to the northwest. And what I'm going to do is slow this loop down just a little bit. And let me bring this up because you see now we're getting a few developing thunderstorms in Bandera County, back to Real County. See this little surge right in here. You can actually see a little bit of a circulation in here, a little mesolow that formed from severe storms out west is now moving in. It's helping to develop these storms here to the east, but it's also producing some pretty strong wind gusts now with these storms dropping through Edwards into Real County north of Lakey. And there's Kerrville, where you've had a little bit of rain around Kerrville, and now it's to your north. But you can see for Kerrville, feel pretty confident you're going to be going through this batch here to the west. And of course, this is falling over some critical watersheds in our area. You get to the headwaters of the Guadalupe, you have the Medina River watershed, and of course, you get the Nueces and the Frio out here to the west. So this is a beautiful cluster from the hydro standpoint. But I will tell you that as we work through the next couple of hours, this is going to continue a severe risk. And frankly, I'm a little bit surprised we don't have a watch out for these counties up here to our north in the hill country, just north of Bexar County for this motion to the east. And what I'll be curious to see is if we're able to get a little bit of development into Bexar County from this complex, especially the northern half of the county. And I feel at this point how it's trending, that is a possibility. So I still very much like the scatter shower or thunder chance in around Bexar County, with a severe risk favoring the northern part of Bexar County, Comal, Kendall, Bandera, and then down to the south. But we'll see, don't want to completely drop our guard for the rest of Bexar County based on that cluster. Let's go ahead and get in a little bit of interrogation here. So what I'm going to do is switch over to radar velocity. Let me bring this down in our area. And first of all, here you can see some of the strong wind gusts right in here. We start getting the shades of, let me go ahead and put this on live radar. But some of these shades of blue that are showing up here, that's wind that's around 60 miles an hour or a little bit stronger. So there you can see some reasoning here for the severe thunderstorm warning that's active for damaging wind gust potential from that line of storms. Nothing that's tornadic in those storms, but definitely see damaging downburst winds or straight line winds, pockets of localized powerful wind, and in a broader area of strong winds in this severe thunderstorm warning. And notice that goes just north of Lakey. Let's take this down south, and here you can see coming into Carrizo Springs and Crystal City, the real strong winds that we have. Now, again, keep in mind, too, the red is air moving away from the radar site, and the radar site is up north. Here's the radar site in Kinney County. And you can see some of the real strong markers of strong winds that we can highlight here for you. Wind that's in excess of 70 miles an hour. Now, this is a little higher above ground level because of the radar beam increasing with height from distance from the radar. But still, that is easily supportive of winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour as you work across Dimmitt County and around Carrizo Springs. And even this leading edge right here, that's probably 55, 60 or so mile per hour winds potential. And you can see behind it are some really strong winds wrapping around in this severe thunderstorm. And would want to watch for any signs of like a quick little spin up down here too, especially on the northern end of a cluster like this. So we'll keep watchful eye on that. But right now, this is damaging wind gust potential down here and some hail. And then we come in a little closer here to Medina County, and you can see that this storm is generating some gusts, but nothing that's severe as seen here. But I do see some pockets of wind that could be 35, 40, or 45 miles an hour. So a noisy storm it's been, but not showing any damaging wind gust potential right now. And we'll keep an eye on these storms that are developing here through Bandera, heading towards southern, southwestern Kerr County. Again, this is radar velocity. Now, what I'm going to do is switch over to our hail tracker product, and we still have a risk of some hail. This is going to be loading data here for us. So, and you can see the hail we predominantly have through the hill country in Bandera County and then up into Edwards. These are more or less smaller hailstones. If you get a quarter-size hailstone, that's on the larger side. Most of this is really small pea, dime, penny size that you see here, as the storm mode is transitioning over to more of a wind hazard at this point. But as we go through the next couple of hours and this stuff is moving east, this activity, there would be a marginal severe risk for 1-inch hail. But the primary hazard will become the damaging wind gust potential. And then down here to the south, you can see we've had this large pocket of quarter-size hail, or even a little larger there when you get those shades of blue, brighter blue. And now we're in a large area here, and let's go into live mode, and let's just kind of drop some points in here for you. And there you can see most of this hail that you see is a penny to nickel size in this storm here at the moment. So a lot of hail around Carrizo Springs, coming into Crystal City, heavy rain mixed with hail. And don't forget, too, you're going to have wind that's going to be driving some of this hail, too, into your windows and just creating a little extra roar to the storm. You have real strong winds mixed with hail. And so that's the combination you have down south. And we'll load this up here for you again. And there you can see sort of the overall trend. This cluster here starting to show a little bit more of a southeastern motion. So we want to watch that for Cotulla down to Webb County. But that would not be moving up towards Bear. In between are patches of light to moderate rain in here with a couple storms trying to pop. And then you get that cluster into the hill country. And here you can see it again. And then down there to the Laredo is going to get a big, this big complex of storms with a severe thunderstorm watch down here. This is all moving southeast. So this is in our southern tier. And then you see as we bring this radar up a little bit, this is light to a little bit more of a steady moderate rain. So you love seeing rain, but there's certainly nothing that's severe here. Uvalde's been seeing rain. Del Rio's getting left out. You've had drops. You even had a heat burst a little bit earlier. But unfortunately for you, the biggest, rainfall totals would be moving well east of Del Rio, hill country. And, we're going to watch for these pockets to see how much of this will cross Bear County to New Braunfels, Canyon Lake, into Bernie here. So that's where we're trending right now. Let me switch this around. Just look at some of the comments. I've been seeing, by the way, some video of Carrizo Springs and some really strong winds down there. Wind and lightning in Uvalde from Rosie. Alicia, I'm not really expecting hail. If we do get hail in Bear County, chances are it would be on the smaller side. We would want to watch for wind gusts. That would be the primary hazard. And again, in Bear County, the risk, there's going to be a risk for a couple of these storms to move across. We'll watch them. But this overall cluster, I feel, is going to be more of a brush across northern Bear, Canyon Lake, Sisterdale, Candelia, DeBernie, Bergheim, Comfort, Kerrville. I think these are all areas that are prime for some pretty good storms, good rainfall mixed in with bursts of wind and some hail potential. But I really feel that the damaging wind gust potential is going to be the highest threat from this little complex. But again, you see, I know many of you in the hill country, especially with the extreme drought pocket that we have here, have really felt left out with a lot of our recent weather and storms we've had in the state and locally. You're really situated beautifully here to pick up on some pretty nice rainfall with this overall setup. But, again, before it all rolls through, make sure you got secured, items there on the back deck, trash, recycle bins, anything like that. Make sure you're bringing them in here because there will be some potential as this all sort of pivots across to get some pretty strong winds and bursts and localized. Let me show you, again, our watch, and I'm going to show you future radar. Again, Bear County's not in it in the hill country. And frankly, I would probably add these counties up here. And they may get added to a watch here in time. So that's just my professional opinion. Based on this cluster, I would at least have this little zone under a watch in the Storm Prediction Center. Maybe talking to the National Weather Service at some point here to do that and add them. Now let's go over to our future radar product. And I kind of want to move the ball forward here, and I'm going to show you two computer models. And this is, I'm just now looking at the HERF for the first time since I started this live weather update here. And I could already tell you it is unfortunately just not latching onto the trends at all. And that's the problem with the HERF model. You lean on it for its initialization every hour with the storms and the radar coverage. Doesn't start off too bad, and it just loses them much too quickly. There's 10 o'clock, and it's slow. It's too slow, and I don't think it really has a good handle. This is our in-house computer model, the graph. And what I'm going to do here is kind of walk you through. And this model here is doing a little bit better, I would say, with this cluster. This is at 9 o'clock. So you'd see, let's see if we can back this all the way up. It's got a reasonable good handle on that commotion. A little aggressive in its southern development, all the way across Uvalde. We'll watch. If that's the trend, then that puts more in around Bexar County in play for rain and thunder. So that is probably right now a little bit more of a reasonable solution compared to her, to be sure, based on how we're trending with this cluster up here. And you see how we're getting widespread heavy rain, and there would be pockets of heavy rain in this model simulation. And again, to me, it feels like this is probably a little too far south. I would have maybe northern Medina, northern Bexar, but this model here is really digging it south. And we'll see. We'll see on that. I'm not necessarily convinced by that, but what you do like to see is that there is rain moving across Bexar County. Most zip codes would see some rain and some thunder, and that's pretty late. So you see, that's midnight, and I do think it's a little slow. It might be a little faster in reality than what the model is selling, but and you can see the severe risk is done really midnight to 1 in the morning. It really winds down. So that's a look at those two computer models here. And the basic gist of what you just saw there was to sort of take this little cluster and move it southeast and eventually fall apart. And then this cluster here becomes our dominant cluster for Bexar County to watch. But again, in my opinion, I think it was biased a little too far south. And while I do feel like it's going to brush across Bexar County with rain and some thunder, kind of feeling that this is the zone right in here, if we're going to get a warning from it, instead of being way down here. So I feel that this gap will hold in terms of risk for strong to severe storms. You got a batch down here, and I think you're going to have this batch up here. Is how it's all going to sort of shake out. Okay. Let me see if I can clear this here. And again, you see how we are now starting to see a little bit more thunder develop in this little corridor here, and then this will be sort of moving across. And there's a little mesoscale low back here that was created by the storms way out here, and this little area of low pressure is moving along, and it's sort of a compact area of low pressure, and it's forming these storms here as it's moving along to the east. And let's bring this in. Again, another tour. There you can see, again, real heavy wind-driven rain with hail mixed in here into Carrizo Springs. And then that's heading to Big Wells. And, of course, Catarina's in there, Catula. I feel like you're in play for this line coming in. So prepare for some strong wind gusts right on down 35 out of our area. And then, of course, I will head down towards Laredo. Pearsall, I feel, is going to miss it. And so I think you're getting rain in Pearsall, and that's what you see a lot of this back here is light to moderate rain. And it's still raining in Eagle Pass. It's not as heavy, but you just love to see the rain continuing to add up. And then you get closer into Bexar. This thunderstorm here is actually a little weaker now. Still a pocket of heavy rain. And now you're starting to see a little bit more development north of Hondo. Medina to near Bandera. Here's Kerrville. And so really looking good for the trends here. And we're going to have Storm Tracker 4 out in the Bernie area in I-10 this evening here to sort of get a look at things and the conditions and have that for you live on the news. And then you can see, again, this is sort of the parent area of low pressure back here that's helping to create some lift on the northeast side of the circulation. This is an area of localized flooding potential on the northern end of this low, where you get the sort of a stationary training area of storms with high rainfall rates. And that might slide over Kerrville and work its way in towards Kendall County and towards Comal County. So again, another huge benefit of a setup like this is that we can drop some really good rainfall on the Guadalupe River recharge basin, and even some of the Medina River basin here, picking up on some of this. So excellent news. Love to see it. Switch over here. I'm going to just check on some of the comments here to see if I'm addressing everyone's questions. Melissa Lopez. I think, Melissa, I think you're out there on one of the Rio Grande. Eagle Pass, maybe, is where you are with the strong winds. Misty asking about Natalia. I do think that some rain for down there along I-35. And you can see as we look to the west, it's much more fragmented and patchy. So, Divine, Moore, and Natalia to Lytle, you can see you're on the edge of that little storm right there. So my feel is that right in this little corridor, we'll get scraped with some rain. This probably heading more towards Lytle to Castroville, and we'll see if it falls apart or if it holds. And then this batch here heading towards Medina Lake and Lake Hills. And these are not severe storms that you see. They're a little noisy, but they symbolize higher rainfall rates. When you start seeing the lightning from the updraft, based on what you see here with the reflectivity signature, that's just good rainfall, nice rainfall rates. Same for Bandera right now. This is just a nice pocket of moderate to heavy rain, nothing that's severe. This right in here is the severe portion of these storms here, where you see some surging here on the reflectivity, indicative of a straight line, sort of a burst of wind hitting 60 or so miles per hour. And then up here towards Harper, this is a localized flood threat right now. There's even a flash flood warning here to the west of Junction from this line. This is a flood advisory, and I do believe that we're going to want to watch for Kerr County to Gillespie for a flood advisory to be issued here in a time. Mark is asking about Stone Oak and hail. I got to tell you, I'm not really all that worried about big hail in Stone Oak. I think that there's some potential to get a storm or two that sort of moves across northern Bear that might have small hail, but really feel that the hazard of concern is winds, stronger wind gusts than it is big severe hail. But not to say that we can't get some hail in these storms, but you're going to find that a lot of the hail is going to be on the smaller side. And here you go right now. Let me kind of just, you can see this is our hail tracker product, and it kind of gives you like an idea. And you see how a lot of the hail that we're showing it's smaller hail. And down south, these storms here, and there's a little pocket of small hail there in Medina County with that storm. In fact, it briefly tried to pulse up to about quarter size south of Hondo, but now it's trending down. And then you get this large area of small hail in these storms as they're becoming wind dominant versus big hail, as the evolution of the storms becomes more of a wind machine than it is able to produce big, large hailstones. But there's a lot of hail tucked into these storms. And then you go west of Laredo, and that's giant hail well west of Laredo, but that's moving south, southeast. So that's not heading to Laredo, but that's the big hail course, severe hail, damaging hail west of Laredo and Webb County. And in our area, we're going to be relegated to small hail. I think there still could be a storm that pulses up to produce marginal quarter size, I would say still, but it really is, it's going to be wind is the big ticket item. And what I'm going to do here is load this up and bring this down into our area here. Let me, again, just kind of run through what I'm seeing here. And number one, I do not see anything that's tornadic, but I do see strong winds. Looks more like 50 to 60 in here now, and there might be a gust in there that could still exceed 60. And so you're going to see that the warning is active. There may be another warning in here where you can't rule out 60-mile-an-hour winds from these storms. I'd keep an eye out for Leakey, Western Bandera, and Kerr County for this. See if it wraps down in, and there's a warning that's issued that covers out in this area. But nothing that's rotating or spinning from that batch. And then down here, you can see there's a real wicked wind signature that's showing up. And what I'm going to do is put this in a live radar mode. This is just west-southwest of Carrizo Springs. And let's see if we can get the plot here for me. And there you go. You see a wind gust estimated by radar that's over 70 miles an hour. Let me just drop another one in there. Well, let's go ahead and clear this. But you see 70 to 73. So one more time here on it. I'm going to hit one here. I'm going to hit one over here. And again, the radar beam it's a little higher off the surface as it's away from Kinney County where the radar is. So naturally, your wind's going to be a little stronger above us, but even for a reduction to surface level, ground level winds, you could still be hitting 60 to 70 or so mile an hour winds in this pocket right in here. And then out here, you get leading edge winds with the storms that are probably 50 to 60. So we'll go ahead and just, kind of drop a marker right there, west of Catarina. There you see 46 estimated. So not all this wind is severe, but you get 45 to 55, that'll get your attention. And then you do run the risk of stronger winds. And you can see in motion, I mean, that's a real wicked downburst signature right there. So there's I would imagine there's damaging winds right in this little pocket here. Could be hitting 70 or so. And that is right around Carrizo Springs. I know you're getting a lot of wind there in Carrizo Springs. Asherton's in here. And this would be something I would want to watch to see if it pivots around to Catarina and, Highway 83 here. And then leading edge of this wind is going to be coming into Cotulla. So go back over to live radar. And let me see if I can, first of all, let's just, highlight down here. Again, right here in the backside of these storms coming in, there's a punch of wind dropping down out of the storms. See how it's sort of bowed out and surged out? That's a good signature of wind. Again, the storm evolution here into a complex or a line like this becomes more wind than it is large damaging hail. You go down further south, and then you get some big hail down in here still, but a lot of wind that's coming in towards Laredo and heavy rain. Come up towards Bexar County. And again, you can see here, these are not severe storms. They're just a little noisy. There might be really tiny hail in a couple of these cores, and occasionally a few gusts, 30, 40 miles an hour. But the goal moving forward here, and my hope, is that we will just spread this rain, some of this rain across Bexar County, and get as many neighborhoods a good wash down here with some good water and some cooling rain. And then you got this up here. Again, we're just celebrating. There's just a lot of good rainfall. Hunt, Mountain Home, Ingram, Kerrville, all these areas up in here getting into some really good rainfall and more to come. It's a beautiful trend. So Kerrville, I really love how you're positioned here. Center Point, Comfort for some good rain. I think in Bernie you're going to be getting rain. Sister Delta Candelia here. I like how things are trending because this is going to have to move east. And I feel it's got a little bit more development for the next few hours before it finally really begins to collapse and weaken. Okay, guys. Well, that's going to do it here for now. We'll do another update here before 10 o'clock. And of course, I will see you News 4 at 10 o'clock as we continue to track this weather. Thank you for joining me.